And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at Adventure Time Card Wars from Cryptozoic. This is one of two different packs of Adventure Time. This is Finn vs. Jake. There's another adventure pack. This has two decks in it. There's two other decks. And they're going to be coming out with this more of this in a collectible card game format. Although you can play this as a basic game, and that's how I've played it. A little bit of backstory here. I didn't know much about Adventure Time when I got this game. I'd seen snippets of it when I was at restaurants, on TVs and such. And I remember remarking on one of my podcasts that it looked like it had been drawn by people who were on drugs. Kind of in passing, looked kind of silly to me. And I got a lot of responses back that, hey, you should watch this. Well, this game is based on a clip from their show, which is available on YouTube. And I went and watched that clip, and I thought, that was pretty funny. And then the whole first season is available on Netflix, so I went and watched the whole first season in a very short amount of time, because this was I'm a huge fan. It's one of the best cartoons I've ever seen in my life. I was really impressed by it, and I'm very sad that that's the only season that's available on the internet anywhere, because I really get a lot of kick out of the cartoon. So the humor in the cartoon, which is fantastic, does it translate to this card game? And is this card game good, even if you haven't seen the show, which I played this before and after having seen the show, so now I have both points of views. Anyway, on to the game. Now this set comes with two decks. We have Jake's deck, which is based on the cornfields here, and we have Finn's deck, which is based on the blue plains. There's two other decks, and there's also some more cards coming on the way, and you'll be able to mix them up. So you might take two blue plains and two cornfields, and the reason you will do that is because over the course of the game, and when you look at the cards that you play, this requires you to have at least two cornfields to be able to play it. So you can mix up. You have cards that require anything in play, but most of the cards are going to require one of the resources. So in this one, you'll start with a deck that's completely corn against a deck that's completely whatever the blue type is, the landscape here, the blue plains. Now, players are trying to knock the other person's life down from 25 points. And to do so over the course of the game, you're going to be playing creatures. There's lots of creatures, and you'll play them in one of the lanes. So we'll take a look at this creature here. This creature here is the Legion of Earlings. Now, at the bottom, you see there's an attack value and there's a defense value. It says when I enter play, you may return target creature in this lane to its owner's hand. So when I put this down, this lane, which is this cornfield and this blue plains, I can send to the opponent's hand. On my turn, what I'm able to do is I'm able to play 2 points worth of cards, 2 action points worth of cards. So if I played this, that's all I can play. I could have played maybe this cornfield building, and buildings are placed behind a lane, and this cerebral bloodstorm, which does 1 damage to each opposing creature. I could play those things, and I could even play just 1 point worth of thing and draw a card. You're going to get to draw a card every turn anyway at the beginning of your turn, but that's a way to get extra cards. Players are going to start with 5 cards, and they'll draw more cards over the course of the game. On your turn, you can play, as I said, up to 2 points worth. You'll draw a card. You can play up to 2 points worth of cards in front of you. You're also allowed at any point during your turn to floop any creature or any card, really, that says floop on it. For example, Archer Dan here. We take a closer look at Archer Dan, and it says floop, destroy target building in Archer Dan's lane. So if I floop Archer Dan, what that means is, well, for lack of a better term, I'm tapping him. When I do that, I'm going to turn him sideways and put him back near the back of cornfield. That's to show that he has been flooped. And yes, in this game, you can floop the pig. Now, at the end of your turn, all the creatures that you didn't floop are going to fight your opponents. Any creature that you have that did floop does not fight your opponents. However, your opponents, you are going to fight back against you, whether they're flooped or not. Sentences I never thought I would say in a review. So let's say this punk cat is fighting the Legion of Earlings. They will do 2 damage to the punk cat. The punk cat says each creature that changed lanes this turn has +2 attack this turn. Well, he didn't change lanes, so he does 2 damage to the Legion of Earlings. So you can see that each of them has a certain number of hit points. When they have those hit points, they will then die. If there's no one in your opposing lane for you to hit, then you will do damage directly to the opponent. And again, the object is to do 25 points worth of damage. You're also allowed on your turn, when playing a card, to play a card and replace one of your cards that has not yet been flooped. Maybe they're about to die or something, and so you like to give them a better benefit. And that's basically it. You're just going to keep going till someone knocks down the other person down from 25 life. Now, let's take a closer look at a few of the cards in the game. So here we have the pig, and you can floop the pig to flip over your opponent's cornfield. Now, flipping over their cornfields can reduce them in weakness, and so, as time goes by, they might not be able to summon different creatures, play creatures. The Bigfoot, where you can flip a target face, you can flip a face-down landscape face up, so that's a kind of a defense against a pig. Evil Eye, just a kind of a random creature. Blood Fortress, that you can put in a lane to give your creature there a +1 attack. Here you can flip one of your landscapes face up and move a building. Teleport lets you move one of your creatures to a different lane. The Ancient Scholar, you can floop to get a random rainbow card, that's these cards here, from your hand, from your discard pile to your hand. Gives you an extra action. Actions are what we call to play these cards out here. You can move a creature with the Dragon Claw. Here's a cool dog because, well, dogs are cool. I like this guy. Each adjacent creature is +1 attack, this extra large spirit soldier. And then Phyllis. While this blade distracts you, her purse swings in for the whammy, it says. She's just kind of a regular trooper, I guess, but easy enough to play. The Embarrassing Bard. The Wood, or the Woad mobile home. It basically lets you move creatures around. You'll notice that in this deck, the Blue Plains is like a mobile deck, while the Khorne deck is all about using the strength of the Khorne to make your troops better. This guy does damage for each card that's in your opponent's hand. These guys, when enter plane, you can put a creature back in their hand. The Khorne Ronin, see, he's +1 attack for each adjacent cornfield landscape. So the more Khorne you have, the better the Khorne Ronin is. Patchy the Pumpkin, like, just attacks everybody on your opponent. The Field Stalker makes your opponent draw cards, which is great with that other card that makes people lose points for the card that are in their hand. The Husker Knights, who are +1 attack and +2 defense for each cornfield landscape you control. So if you're playing with 4 cornfields, they are a 4 attack and 8 defense. Probably you don't want those pigs to show up. And the Wall of Ears. So this is just an example of some of the cards in the game. Now, Adventure Time Card Wars is fairly similar to Magic the Gathering in a lot of ways. I mean, you have the different types of lands, just like the different types of colors in Magic, and you are flooping, which is tapping, and you're attacking. There is differences, though, obviously. When you hit other creatures, damage will stay from turn to turn. When you have to kind of stay in a lane, so you attack people in that lane. And it's a much simpler version. Deck building is something that I didn't have an opportunity to try just having played this base set, but I was sitting there going, man, I would really like to deck build with this. I'd like to see other sets of this and maybe the new collectible. Who knows? I would like to try some of that out and see how it works. But it is a simpler game. And because of that, I think this is a good game for kids. I'm not saying it's a bad game for adults, but it's very simple and basic. I don't sit there with my hand going, ooh, all the different strategic options. I go, okay, I have 3 or 4 different options, and I'm going to play them. I did like the fact that the 2 decks in this kind of work against each other in a way that the cornfield's all about pumping up your corn, getting in there powerful, hitting your opponent for having lots of cards in his hand. The blue player is trying to destroy all your opponent's cornfields so that you can take away his power and win the game that way. So it's an interesting back and forth, and I liked it. I won't say I loved it because again, it's almost a little too simple, but at the same time, sometimes maybe we want games to be too complex, and so a simpler game is better. Besides, the theme is great. Now, not having played it at all, I just thought it was kind of silly cartoon stuff that we played. Oh, okay, that was fun. Once I had watched the cartoon and played it, then it was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, that's cool. That's neat, and trying to copy the voice actors and stuff. So I think the game would be better for people who are fans of the cartoon, but I don't think you have to be to enjoy the game. So what would I recommend? I think if I was recommending this, I think I would recommend get both boxes. And then that way you can play, even if you don't want a deck build, you still have 4 different decks to go up against each other. I can't say what the other 2 decks are like, but I still think it'd be interesting to do that. And then you could give each person 2 of those decks and say, go ahead and deck build with those. Because I would like to try a half Cornfield, half Blue Plains deck. I think that might be interesting. So, fun game. Certainly stays true to the theme and how the cards work. And I thought their special power stuff was also thematic and things. So, interesting game. Adventure Time Card Wars.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.